Hi friends, and welcome back to MV Stories. Today we'll look at a few Reddit stories, and if you like them, you can like, comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss new videos. Today's story comes from the Relationships subreddit. It was posted by Sethaline and was titled, "My mother made a rude comment about my significant other's deceased brother, and I don't know how to move forward." 2 years ago, boyfriend's younger brother tragically died in a motor vehicle accident at the age of 11. It was a really tough time. My boyfriend still hasn't gotten over it completely. He was a very caring older brother, and I know that he loved that kid as much as he loved me, a lot. His younger brother was in the car with his mom when it happened, and she rarely enforced the adornment of seatbelts in the car. My boyfriend doesn't blame his mom for what happened, but I suspect that my mother does. My mother usually has her heart in the right place, but she has a really big mouth. She doesn't really like my boyfriend because she thinks he's not emotionally equipped to be a father, whatever that means, so she can be pretty rude to him. We've had discussions about how she treats him in the past, and I made it very clear to her that I want to marry this guy, but she still hasn't changed. My boyfriend and I came to visit my parents for the week since my dad is turning 64. This morning, my mother and I got into an argument because she was still trying to baby me. She tried to correct my toothbrushing motions, even though I'm a full-fledged, self-supporting adult. I guess she's bored or something. We all got into the car to go out for brunch when my mom told me my seatbelt was secured too loosely. My boyfriend smirked a little because he was there when I discussed babying to my mother, and she was not happy with his reaction. Whenever she feels belittled, she gets vicious, but she definitely went way too far this time. I don't remember what she said exactly, but it was something along the lines of, "I care about the well-being of my children." Maybe if you or boyfriend's mother cared as much as I do, boyfriend's younger brother would still be here. Do you find negligence funny? Car went dead silent right after that. My dad noped the fuck out, and my boyfriend just sat there in shock. I was furious at my mom, but I didn't know what to do, so I coarsely told her to get out of the car and go back inside the house. She refused, unsurprisingly, so I took my boyfriend, who was silent the entire time, to our own car and drove him to a hotel. I promised him he didn't have to spend the rest of our trip at their house. He hasn't said much since the incident, but I can tell he's very upset with my mother. He has issues with opening up and sharing his grief. So I'm very worried that what my mother said re-triggered the depression he went through immediately following his younger brother's death. Any ideas regarding how I should handle this? I am unbelievably mad at my mother right now, but I don't even know what I can do about it. My dad is trying to stay uninvolved, which makes me mad at him too. My boyfriend has been watching soccer all day, and he doesn't want to talk about what my mom said, so I'm very concerned about him as well. Update 1. My mother is unbelievable. I'm not sure if she is a narcissist, but she is most definitely a bitch. On Thursday, I called my father and asked him to bring us our stuff to our hotel so we could begin the 3-hour drive back home. When he arrived at our hotel, he apologized profusely to my boyfriend for what my mother said, and they both shook hands and agreed to move on. I think my dad wanted us to stay, but I knew that any type of interaction with my father would involve my mother as well, and I'm not going to let that happen for obvious reasons. I ended things on amicable terms with my father because I don't think it's fair to blame him for what my mother said. He is probably enabling her, but he promised me he would talk to her about making steps towards fixing things. That being said, I'm pretty sure my mother won't change her mind anytime soon. I asked my father privately about my mother's reaction to everything, and he told me that she was very disappointed in me for making this trip about me and my relationship. Apparently, she does not want to speak to me until I apologize to her. Who says what she says and then demands an apology? I'm especially hurt about everything because she did all of this right after I finished expressing my excitement to her, because I discovered something that led me to believe my boyfriend was planning on proposing to me soon. She knows that I love him more than anything else in the world, and she still paid no attention to his feelings and my feelings by extension. She doesn't have to love him, but she should at least care about him, merely because he's important to me. Is that too much to ask from my own mother? On the car ride home, I tried to cheer my boyfriend up by asking him about the soccer and tennis games he was watching, because he likes it when I take an interest in his hobbies. Usually, he will happily explain everything to me, but this time he barely said anything, so I decided to give him some space, and I ended up replying to a few comments on here and reading some articles about narcissism. When we got home, he seemed much more at peace with what happened, so I was hoping that we could just put my mother behind us and move past this. Yeah, my mother demanding an apology isn't the unbelievable part of last night. Our home phone had a voicemail from my boyfriend's dad asking us to call him. My mother actually called my boyfriend's parents to question their parenting directly. Oh my God, who does that? This is far and beyond what I thought my mother would ever be capable of. I'm so disgusted by all of this that I don't even want to know what my mother said to them specifically. My boyfriend's mom won't get on the phone with us, but his dad said that she's been sobbing nonstop. I feel sick to my stomach about everything, but I don't know what to do. My mom won't reply to my messages or my calls because she's still waiting for an apology, and my poor dad is caught in the middle of everything during his birthday weekend. My boyfriend, someone who's traditionally very agreeable and calm, is livid. He told me he wants her out of his life completely, and I agreed with him, but I'm not sure she'll let us just cut her out of our lives without trying to hurt us even more. His parents live on the other side of the country, so he feels completely helpless. It's like my mother erased all of our therapy sessions and counseling in one day just because she was unhappy with how my boyfriend reacted to her ridiculous behavior. Yesterday was pretty uneventful. My boyfriend and I just hung out for the majority of the day. Neither of our mothers has spoken to us. For the record, my mother did not raise me to be this way. I was very close to her when I was younger, and while we did drift a little bit after college, I still frequently confided in her. I always knew she had a big mouth, but her current actions are just hateful. She can't plead obliviousness. She is deliberately trying to hurt people I care about. I don't know what's happened to her, but that woman is not my mother, and I don't care if I ever speak to her again. Update 2. Sorry if this update is all over the place. I'm still trying to absorb everything that has happened. I hope that writing it all out will help. There are some aspects of the past couple of days that I don't want to write about, even anonymously, so please bear in mind that there will be some details missing. After I replied to a few comments on my last post, I read some articles about narcissism and enabling narcissism. It is impossible for me to maintain a healthy relationship with my father without a drastic change in his relationship with my mother. Hopefully someone on here can empathize with the pain that causes me. Knowing that you love someone so much, but forcing yourself to remove that person from your life because you fully comprehend that the contact between the two of you is inappropriate. I suspect some people will find faults with my decision to go and see with my father, and I welcome your criticism. Just know that it was not a decision I made easily. I have always been Daddy's little girl. When I was young, I used to fantasize that my father and my Prince Charming would become best friends, knowing that it's very likely my father will not be walking me down the aisle cuts my heart like a knife. I called him up to talk to him about my decision on Saturday, while my boyfriend was privately Skyping with his parents. He told me he was happy to hear from me, and he explained that my mother was going through our family photos to throw away pictures of me. He saved all of the pictures, but he did not stop her from throwing them out in the first place. I asked him if he repeated anything from our last phone call to my mother. He did. I asked him if he could promise me that would stop. He could not. I started sobbing, and I told him that I could not keep him in my life while he was still enabling my mother's behavior. He joined me in crying and repeatedly begged me to make up with my mom. I explained to him very clearly why that would not happen under the current circumstances, and we both sat silently on the phone for what felt like an hour. He broke the silence by telling me that he was proud of me and that he loved me more than anything in the world. That only made me cry more. I guess my boyfriend heard me sobbing because he walked into the room, hugged me, and asked me who I was on the phone with. Eventually, he asked to speak with my father, and after their conversation, my boyfriend asked me if I sincerely believed that I had to cut my father out of my life. I explained to him that we would never be able to move past this while I was still in contact with someone that allowed my mother to continue her hateful actions. My boyfriend accepted my response and reminded me that it was my decision to make and he did not want me to feel like he was pressuring me to sever or maintain my relationship with my father. I call my dad 3 to 4 times a week, so he knows how close I was with him and how much love we have for each other. He knows this wasn't an easy decision for me to make. I finished the call with my dad by telling him that he needed to get my mother help, and he needed to put his foot down to let her know that her current actions are not okay. He understood, and he promised me that he would do whatever it takes to get me back into his life, including a divorce if my mother continues her refusal to work on herself. But right now, he wants to keep on pushing to get my mother help, because he loves her. I admire and respect my father a lot, even if I don't fully admire and respect the things he's done this past week. Despite everything my mother has done to me, my boyfriend's family, and even him, he is still loyal to her. Enabling her certainly isn't something he should be proud of, but I admire his devotion to his wife. A lot of people tell me that I'm fiercely loyal to my loved ones, and I'm very proud that I learned that from him. I hope he keeps his promise and finds his way back into my life, but I know I should not count on it. After my phone call, my boyfriend and I had a serious discussion about everything that's happened. I don't know how, especially after he embraced me half an hour earlier while I was crying, but I convinced myself that he was going to leave me. I had to work so hard to hold back tears as he spoke because I thought I knew that this would be our last conversation as a couple. I'm well aware of the fact that I am the sole reason he has to deal with all of this, and to be frank, I feel responsible. If I wasn't in his life, his family would not have had to gone through this awful experience. But instead of breaking up with me, he asked me to tell him how I was feeling about everything and how I need him to support me. I told my beautiful boyfriend everything. I asked him the same question, and he told me everything. He also suggested that I begin meeting regularly with a therapist, at least for now, and I accepted wholeheartedly. The only positive aspect of pain is having your best friend support you through it. After our talk, he wanted to think about everything in quiet, but he asked me to sit with him. We sat together and said nothing for hours. He didn't want to cuddle, and he didn't even look at me for the majority of the silence. He just asked me to be with him. I tried to think about this entire situation some more, but instead, I just thought about how much love I have for my boyfriend. Eventually, he began to talk about his brother. We shared familiar stories with each other and cherished them as if they were new. We both celebrated his brother's beautiful life together, but it wasn't sad or depressing. It was very pleasant. I was troubled when he started talking about things he could have done differently. Obviously, I immediately explained that nothing about the loss was his fault, but I'm not sure he believes that the awful things my mother said are untrue. It's bothering me a lot, and I have already told his therapist about this. His therapist offered some responses I can use if my boyfriend brings up this awful thought again, but I'm curious about how Reddit thinks I should reply. Maybe I've done some things wrong as a girlfriend. Please point them out, but I'm doing my best to be the woman he deserves. Thanks to the suggestions of Reddit, I offered to Skype with my boyfriend's parents to express my grief and offer my support to them. It went very well. His parents were lovely, as always, and it pains me to know that these innocent, kind people have to experience this much heartbreak in their lifetimes. I explained to them how much my heart aches for them and how I have cut off contact with my parents completely. They told me that they loved me very much and that they would lend an ear if I ever needed guidance. Who would want to hurt people like that? It's not fair that these beautiful people have to suffer through this. I would not wish this pain on the most definitively evil people in the world. I wrote my mother a very long email explaining why I would no longer be speaking to her or my father. I detailed how her actions hurt me and people that I loved. I explained how betrayed I felt. I told her that she was not acting like the mother that raised me to live virtuously. I asked her to get help. I told her that if she didn't want to do it for me or herself, she needs to do it for my father. Even a person that has acted as selfishly as her has to feel an emotional obligation to please the one person standing by them, right? I admitted to her that I still loved her and my father. I admitted that I would love them unconditionally, and there is nothing I can do to change that. But I also explained that I could not sit by and watch my mother destroy herself like this, and I could not idly watch her hurt the other people I love unconditionally. Perhaps they gave her ammo. Looking back, I feel like my profession of love to her was unnecessary, but I don't regret telling her that. It's the truth. She replied almost immediately, and I could not stop myself from reading her reply, mostly because she had replied at all despite me not apologizing for anything in the email. I was foolishly hopeful that she finally understood everything. Instead, she tells me she is disgusted that I'm entertaining my father's notion to get her evaluated medically and mentally. She says that we're the ones that need the evaluations. She writes that I am a fool for abandoning my family for a man I met at a bar. She finishes by telling me that I'm not the daughter she raised, and she will never be able to forgive me for making my father cry because I selfishly want to spend more time with my boyfriend. I cried after I read her letter, not because her words hurt me, but because it's painfully clear that there is something wrong with her, but she's too hurt, scared, or hateful to let us help her. I'm grieving the loss of my mother because I'm afraid I will never see her again. Things are bad now, but I'm very optimistic about my future. I know that any of my boyfriend's possible plans to propose are delayed at best, but I don't think my mother has succeeded in destroying our future family. Thank you so much for all of your support. I do not think I will update again, and if I do, it won't be for a while, but I will try to reply to as many comments as possible. The overwhelming love and support I've discovered in this community delighted me, and I'm grateful for all of the advice and kind thoughts you have shared with me. To all of the parents that shared their stories about the loss of their children with me, my heart aches for you. You are a wonderful person for using your story to help others. I wish I could hug you. I'm sorry this was so long. Writing some of this out has been therapeutic for me, and hopefully I haven't upset too many people with this. I distress to read that my post brought up painful memories for members of this community. You have no idea how much my heart aches for you. The second story is from Family Subreddit. It was posted by Thrower Classrooms and was titled, "My church is foregoing their tradition of honoring graduates to instead honor homeschooling moms. My sister is graduating this year and disappointed. I'm currently attending college out of state. I'm no longer religious and haven't attended church since I moved out for college at 18. The church in the title is the one I grew up in along with my sister. She'll be graduating this year, and I made plans to come home to attend two things: the ceremony at her school and a Sunday church service where graduates are honored. I, myself, was honored with other graduates when I was 18, and the church asked graduates to wear their school gowns to church to walk down the aisles as they played the graduation song. Once everyone was on stage, the youth pastor announced each graduate by name, the school they graduated from, and what they planned to major in college. They then gave respective gifts for males and females, and the pastor prayed for us at the end. It lasted about 5 minutes, and a great many churches have their own way of honoring graduates this time of year. But for whatever reason, that tradition is being broken this year. When I was being honored, the church sent an email a few weeks in advance requesting that graduates wear their gown and submit a graduation photo to show on screen. This year, however, they didn't do that and sent an email explaining why. Instead of honoring graduates on stage this year, the church will honor homeschooling moms in the congregation, and there needs to be some context. Our church has a homeschooling group that meets in their classrooms for activities. The group is an official program of the church and is advertised on their website too. The email said that homeschooling is a thankless job and that parents who sacrifice careers to stay at home never receive recognition. So the church will honor them by having them come on stage in place of the graduates from recent years. Furthermore, the only graduates that will be honored on stage are the homeschooling graduates of the moms in the congregation who will supposedly come on stage with their mom. In years past, the youth pastor gave a sermon on graduation Sunday since most of the graduates went to youth group. However, the head of the church's homeschooling group will give a sermon about homeschooling instead. My sister is disappointed, as are my parents, and we're wondering why they can't do both. Why not have the non-homeschooling graduates be honored on stage before honoring the homeschooling moms? What about potential homeschooling graduates who may feel embarrassed walking down with their mom and may prefer to walk down with graduates their age? Why must we exclude anyone when the church has been flexible with time in the past. There have been Sundays when worship was shortened because a baby dedication or something similar was taking place. They also do a very brief worship on Missionary Sunday each year, when they pass a microphone to each missionary who comes on stage to say what country they serve, and there's at least 20+ missionaries. My parents are considering sending an email to one of the leaders along with speaking to one directly, and they also talked to other parents who felt similarly about the email. In addition to the email and trying to talk to a leader, would anyone have any suggestions on how to convey that no one has to be excluded? Church is the one place where you'd want to include everyone, and this seems to be a very avoidable mishap. Graduation Sunday is July 12th at our church this year, so there should still be some time. Update. Something I forgot to include in my previous post was the reason our church's graduation Sunday was on July 12th. The last day of school for our school district was June 27th, and the commencement ceremony was the following week, so that's why. I took the advice many gave and asked my parents if I could co-write an email to the church with them, as other parents they spoke to were also considering. However, they suggested sending my own because 2 are better than 1, and higher statistical numbers may change minds. I agreed and sent one expressing my disappointment as a former member who was honored upon graduating, and I included a powerful point that another commentator gave. Churches often have many kids who attend different schools, and each school has its own graduation. However, church graduations allow kids from different schools to be part of the same ceremony with the church as the unifying factor. When I was honored, kids wore different colored gowns from local schools as they walked down the aisle during service, and it was a beautiful representation of each school. I argued that by choosing not to honor non-homeschoolers, they were depriving kids who grew up in the church of the chance to be celebrated together regardless of school district. And if nothing else, isn't the point of church to bring people together? According to my parents, other parents sent emails in addition to in-person follow-ups, and the church sent a follow-up email a few days later. The email addressed how numerous people reached out asking that they honor non-homeschooling graduates too. However, instead of correcting course, they said they'd allow parents to send graduation photos to be shown in a slideshow on the foyer TVs that are often used to show announcements and whatnot. But that is the extent of their capitulation, which is pathetic in my opinion. I shied away from personal opinions on homeschooling and the church's motives in my first post because I deemed it irrelevant if a simple course correction could be made. But since they decided to double down on a decision to slight non-homeschooling graduates, I feel no need to hide those feelings anymore. As many comments stated, it seems as if the church is choosing to slight those who attend public school for reasons not said out loud. I personally believe those reasons relate to promoting homeschooling as a superior form of education based on 2 things. The church has its own homeschooling program, and it's promoted as a faith-based program. So I believe the church is choosing to exclude the secular public school graduates to honor Christian indoctrination instead. This is the reverse of the eradicating anti-Christian bias bullshit, and I agree with commenters who pointed out that the current regime loves devaluing the U.S. educational system, a regime that many Christians and churches have fallen in love with. And given how our church has veered into politics in recent years, that is my belief about what they're not saying out loud. They could so easily choose to honor all graduates, but they are choosing to intentionally slight non-homeschoolers. My parents and sister are disgusted to say the least, and we will not be attending that Sunday. I broached the idea of considering a new church, but my parents aren't willing to go that far yet. I think they'll change their mind, and they've talked with other parents who were disgusted too. We will instead go out for breakfast during the time we would have attended the service, but I'm taking it a step further. Not only am I going to make posts about the church's decision on my socials with screenshots of the email, but I'm also going to blast a detailed email to all my ex-friends who received the church honor when I did. I'm also going to email the local school districts and follow up with a call. If the church wants to intentionally slight others, then they should bear the weight of their decision. A part of me is even considering emailing the local news, but I'm not sure about that one yet. All we know is that we're not attending that Sunday, and I support my parents' decision because fuck the church's decision. Relevant comments. Wheels on Fire 1973 says, is this a very conservative church that's pushing the trad family / trad wife narrative and public schools are bad because trans kids and vaccines? Because if so, the exclusion is the point. Sunbeer 2525 says, I don't know what your political alignment is, but I want to point out that this shift indicates that the church is fostering an environment in which far-right ideologies thrive. This political alignment is, at its core, about destroying the U.S. education system, ending women's rights to vote, removing child welfare programs and protections, and fostering environments in which children can be exploited in every way possible without government intervention or oversight. I am not saying your church is full of bad people with bad intentions. Many people on the right are unaware of what they are being sold as freedom, and protecting children is really about removing social safety nets and increasing the vulnerability of women and children. Even if you trend towards the right, these are not traditional Republican values. I would seriously question if there isn't a church that is a better fit for you. I understand firsthand how painful these decisions can be. A church is community and often a second extended family. However, it is important to surround yourself with people who truly reflect your values. You seem to value education. It is clear your church no longer does. Somewhat Bougiani says, my church honors graduates every year by calling their names during service and having a reception after service. It's to show appreciation to them for a job well done and to support and encourage their future plans. My church also gives scholarships to high school grads who will attend college or vocational school or trade school. Depending upon the number of graduates, these scholarships can be from the mid-4 figures to the low 5 figures each year. All the money comes from donations by the congregation. I hope OP's church sees the light and continues to honor traditional high school grads along with homeschool grads, because what they're proposing now is dumb. Mem75 says, there are 52 Sundays. Why can't both be recognized? I think anyone who is disappointed in this decision, let the leadership know. I was a homeschooled kid, but my mom would have raised holy hell if our church skipped over recognizing the graduates in lieu of a day about homeschool moms. Graduation Sunday was definitely something I looked forward to and still have a photo somewhere of my friends and I in our caps and gowns from that day. We represented 3 different high schools as well as homeschool. It was the one day we all got to be in cap and gowns celebrating together. McMurmel says, someone took charge of this to send everyone a message. That's a crappy thing to do. This homeschool thing through your family's church sounds to me is their advertisement. You don't go through a school, you won't get the recognition. They absolutely have room to honor the kids who went to either public or private school. Sorry, Opie. Whoever the decision maker is did this and are trying to send a message. This isn't a mishap. This was done deliberately. Difficult Finger 4830 says, homeschooling is not a job, and no parent should ever receive recognition for a reason, unless you have legitimate medical or family reasons to homeschool, moving around a lot, living in a super rural area not close enough to a school. Homeschooling is the dumbest thing ever. I want to apologize for saying that some crunchy anti-vaxxer mom is unqualified to teach kids. There's a reason teachers get master's degrees, and it's not because they enjoy accruing massive student loan debt. It's because you need a certain skill set and knowledge base to teach children. This honoring of parents who intentionally crippled their children intellectually is the way of thanking them for keeping them in the fold and unable to function by themselves.